If you meet me at the Red Barn, as sure as I have life, I will take you to Ipswich town, and there make you my wife. This lad went home, and fetched his gun, his pickaxe, and his spade. He went unto the Red Barn, and there he dug her grave. With her heart so light, she thought no harm, to meet her love did go. He murdered her all in the barn, and he laid her body low.
In 1827, the hitherto quiet Suffolk village of Polstead was thrust into the spotlight when the body of a 24-year-old woman by the name of Maria Marten was found dead inside a barn, which was a local landmark on the outskirts of the village. It had been assumed that she had moved to Ipswich a year earlier to be with her lover, William Corder, and letters suggested that all was well. Her stepmother had even dreamed a year earlier that she was dead. So started the search for the answers to this terrible mystery, which concluded with a gruesome aftermath. At the time, the village comprised around 30 houses. Among the residents were two families, the Corders, who were tenant farmers, and the Marten family, who were lower down the social hierarchy. Thomas Marten was a mole catcher and also supported his family by selling vegetables grown in the garden of their tiny cottage. The Corders had 6 children, 4 sons and 2 daughters, of which William, born in 1803, was the third boy. He had a reputation as something of a fraudster and ladies' man. He was known as Foxy at school because of his sly manner, and once fraudulently sold his father's pigs. Although the matter was settled without involving the police, even so, William did not change his behaviour. He later obtained money by passing a forged cheque and had helped a local thief by the name of Samuel Smith to steal a pig from a neighbouring village. When Smith was questioned by the local police over the theft, he made a prophetic statement concerning William. "I'll be damned if he will not be hung some of these days," he said. Maria Marten, who was the eldest of 4 children, was born in 1801. Her father Thomas's wife Grace had died giving birth to the 4th baby, and he had remarried a local woman called Anne, who was a number of years younger than he was. This meant that Maria had a stepmother only 10 years older than her, and apparently by the mid-1820s, when events started to unfold, it was causing tensions in the household. Maria had been sent out to work at the age of 7, serving as a maid in the house of a clergyman in a neighbouring village. She was summoned home in her early teens when her mother died. She became the housekeeper and de facto caregiver for her younger siblings, until her father's remarriage a few years later. The first known connection between these two families, the Corders and the Martens, did not concern William at all. When she was 18, Maria became romantically involved with Thomas Corder, the family's second child, and supposedly first in line to inherit the farm. She became pregnant, and he made it clear he would not be marrying her, and after the baby died at just a few weeks old, Thomas Corder cut off all contact with Maria. Her next romantic involvement was with Peter Matthews. He was of independent means, and a relative of the gentry family who owned the local manor, Polstead Hall, and leased the Martins' cottage to them. This relationship between Peter and Maria seems to have been even less likely to result in her getting set up in a stable marriage, but this time the child she conceived survived and was named Thomas Henry Marten. The child's naming is a pointed clue that the father wanted nothing to do with him, but apparently he did provide Maria with a quarterly maintenance payment of £5. Mother and son continued to live with her family and stepmother in the village. Tragedy struck, and John Corder, the tenant farmer, died, leaving his wife Anne in sole charge of 300 acres and 6 grieving children. Not long afterwards, 2 of the sons also died due to contracting tuberculosis. In February 1826, Maria's former lover Thomas drowned in the Polstead pond while trying to take a shortcut across its frozen surface. In a space of 18 months, William had gone from being one of 4 sons of a busy farmer to inheriting the tenancy as the sole surviving heir. He had not ever intended to spend his life involved in agriculture, living out his life in the village where he had been born. It would have been natural that he would seek his own path away from the village, as the farm would eventually pass to his oldest brother. When William was 16, he began work as a labourer on the family farm, and endured this until he was 22, spending his free time in drinking and gambling at the local inns, before his religious father lost patience with his son's loose ways and sent him away in disgrace to London to enlist in the merchant navy. William was rejected by the recruiting office because of poor eyesight. He spent several months in London, carousing with a group of new acquaintances who boasted varying degrees of criminality, before eventually returning to Suffolk and the farm in April 1824. A little over a year later, his male relatives passed away. Around this time, he formed a connection with Maria. The pair used to meet in an old barn on the Corders' lands, known locally as the Red Barn, where they conducted their affair. Maria became pregnant for the 3rd time, but the baby did not survive. William gave the impression that he still wanted to marry Maria despite this loss. He told her, as well as her father and stepmother, that they must hurry because the local constable was planning to arrest Maria for the supposed crime of having illegitimate children, which the parish then had to support. This was completely untrue, not least because Maria's only living child was being well supported by his father, Peter Mayhew's quarterly allowance. Maria did not seem to have objected to William's urgency. A plan was made on the 18th of May 1826 that she would sneak out of the cottage where she lived, disguised as a boy, and go to the Red Barn, where she would then change into her own clothes and pick up her luggage that had previously been hidden there. The couple would then leave for Ipswich and be married there by special licence. This was done so they could avoid having the banns read on 3 successive Sundays in their own church in Polstead, and presumably then endure a month of village gossip about why Maria, the unwed mother of one child and abandoned mistress of a deceased Corder, was now marrying his brother. The final glimpse of Maria was caught by her stepmother Anne, who was looking on from the cottage door as the couple left. They climbed over a gate together and began to make their way across the fields towards the Red Barn, which was situated on Barnfield Hill, about half a mile from the cottage. This was the last time that she was seen alive. Although Maria was never seen again in Polstead, her supposed husband-to-be, William Corder, was a surprisingly regular visitor after the couple's apparent elopement. The following Monday, he was back at the Martens' cottage, assuring them that their daughter was safe and well in Ipswich. She could not come herself or write to them because she was so busy preparing for the wedding. Over the next few weeks, he was in the village regularly, helping his widowed mother with the farm, and always had a good explanation as to why his fiancée was not with him. This continued throughout the spring and summer, with Maria's stepmother Anne growing more and more suspicious. William eventually told her that Maria had hurt her hand, and that was why he had only verbal messages to pass on, rather than letters. Anne was not fooled, especially because William freely admitted that the pair still weren't married, and it was unclear how Maria was affording this independent life away from Polstead. In September, presumably after the harvest on the Calder farm was completed, and the need for him to be at home had lessened, he finally left the village. In October, he wrote to Maria's father from London that the couple had finally married. They planned to settle on a farm near Newport on the Isle of Wight, and that there was much to sort out. He claimed that Maria had already written to her family with the news of their wedding, and was disappointed to have received no reply. Later, it was established that there was no evidence that such a letter had ever existed. The Marten family had certainly never received it. Strangely, in November 1827, he paid for an advertisement to appear in both the Morning Herald and the Sunday Times that read as follows: Matrimony. A private gentleman, aged 24, entirely independent, whose disposition is not to be exceeded, has lately lost chief of his family by the hand of Providence, which has occasioned discord among the remainder, under circumstances the most disagreeable to relate. To any female of respectability, who would study for domestic comfort, and is willing to confide her future happiness to one in every way qualified to render the marriage state desirable, as the advertiser is in affluence. William, who claimed to be in the Isle of Wight with his wife Maria, was in fact in London, advertising in the newspapers for a wife, and it worked, as he received around 100 responses from women who were interested in the opportunity he was offering. William did in fact get a wife from his advertisement. He liked the letter from Mary Moore, a former governess of independent means, and arranged to meet her. In December, about 3 weeks after the advert had been published, the couple were married at St Andrew's Church in Holborn. They wanted to start a school together, so they moved into a larger house in Brentford, and over the winter welcomed their first pupils. Mary's mother even moved in with them to be close to her daughter and to help out. In Polstead, Anne Marten was struggling to sleep through the night. By early April she had the same macabre dream several times, where Maria from beyond the grave told her that she had been murdered and buried in the Red Barn. In early 1828, Thomas Marten went digging in the earth floor in one particular corner of the Red Barn. There he found the remains of what was later identified as his daughter's body. The green handkerchief she had worn around her neck on that last day when she departed with William for their supposed wedding was still there. His wife later identified some of the other clothes and fabrics found in the shallow grave. A more thorough search of the barn revealed bloodstains and the marks of a bullet in one of the walls. Maria was not making a new life with her new husband. She had never left Polstead, or the Red Barn at all. After learning from Maria's parents of her relationship with William and the circumstances in which she had last been seen, the local Suffolk coroner and the police decided that William was the obvious person to provide an explanation of her tragic death. Knowing that he had previously spent time in London, they looked for him there first. A Lambeth Parish constable assisted with the search and had no difficulty tracking him down to his new residence at the school in Brentford. He was arrested and charged and returned to Suffolk. An inquest was held in Polstead, and the jury concluded that William Corder was the wilful murderer of Maria Marten. He was taken to the jail in Bury St Edmunds to await a full criminal trial, which took place in November of 1828. He was charged with 10 separate counts of wrongdoing, as well as murder. He was accused of stabbing Maria in the ribs, in the face, in the neck, shooting and strangulation, of suffocating her with earth, and of burying her improperly. The body had been in a shallow grave for around 9 months by the time it was examined, and the stab wounds could well have been marks from the tools used to retrieve the corpse. Wherever William was taken after his arrest, large crowds would gather, hoping for a glimpse of him, and hundreds of strangers turned up for Maria's funeral after the inquest in April. For the trial itself, people travelled great distances to attend, and queued in the rain for a chance to sit in the court's public gallery. Newspapers covered every minute development in the case for months, and in the absence of any good information, simply invented it. There was even a fierce appetite from the public for souvenirs. Staffordshire pottery figures of William and Maria were very popular, as were ceramic models of the Red Barn itself. The trial at Shire Hall, Bury St Edmunds, started on the 7th of August, having been put back several days because of the interest which the case had generated. The hotels in Bury St Edmunds began to fill up from as early as the 21st of July, and admittance to the court was by ticket only because of the large numbers who wanted to view the trial. Despite this, the judge and court officials still had to push their way bodily through the crowds that had gathered around the door. Marten's exact cause of death could not be established. It was thought that a sharp instrument had been plunged into her eye socket, possibly Corder's short sword, but this wound could have been caused by her father's spade when he was exhuming the body. Strangulation could not be ruled out, as William's handkerchief had been discovered around her neck. To add to the confusion, the wounds to her body suggested she had been shot. William was charged with murdering Maria Marten by feloniously and wilfully shooting her with a pistol through the body, and likewise stabbing her with a dagger. To avoid any chance of a mistrial, he was charged with 9 other offences, including one of forgery. Maria's stepmother was called to give evidence of the events of the day of Maria's disappearance and her later dreams. Thomas Marten told the court how he had dug up his daughter, and Maria's brother George revealed that he had seen William with a loaded pistol before the alleged murder and had later seen him walking from the barn with a pickaxe. The police gave evidence concerning the arrest and the objects found during the search of his house. The accused had pleaded not guilty and was permitted to speak in his own defence. He did not deny having buried Maria in the Red Barn, and lied to her parents about her whereabouts. He had not been present at her death, though, he insisted. He told the court that they had quarrelled on the walk from the Martins' cottage to the barn. She was angry that their marriage was being conducted in such a secret way, and accused him of being ashamed of her. And he was so angry with her that he said that he had changed his mind about being with her. He left her alone in the barn and stormed off. But before he had gone more than a few yards, he heard a shot and ran back inside. He found her dead on the ground, having shot herself with a pistol he recognises his own, which she must have taken from his bedroom at the farm. Out of his mind with panic, and assuming that he would be accused of shooting her himself, he buried the body in the barn and kept up the fiction that Maria had gone away to become his wife. He did not attempt to explain the other injuries that had been observed on the body, such as the stabbing or the strangling, nor did he account for the fact that he had advertised for a new wife while still pretending to the Martens that he was married to Maria. William pleaded with the jury to give him the benefit of the doubt, but after they retired, it took them only 35 minutes to return a guilty verdict. Judge Alexander donned the black cap and then sentenced William with the words, "That you be taken back to the prison from whence you came, and that you be taken from thence on Monday next to a place of execution, and that you will be hanged by the neck until you are dead, and that your body shall afterwards be dissected. And may the Lord God Almighty, of his infinite goodness, have mercy on your soul." The night before his execution, he confessed that he had in fact shot Maria, but it had been an accident. She was changing out of her disguise in the barn, and they were arguing, and the pistol he was waving about went off. Whether this was the truth or just another version of the accidental death story he had told at the trial, we will never know. On the 11th of August, he was taken to the gallows in Bury St Edmunds, apparently too weak to stand without support. He was hanged shortly before noon in front of a large crowd. One newspaper claimed there were 7,000 spectators, another as many as 20,000. Just before the hood was drawn over his head, William said, "I am guilty. My sentence is just. I deserve my fate, and may God have mercy on my soul." His body was cut down after an hour by the hangman John Foxton. The body was taken back to the courtroom at Shire Hall, and crowds were allowed to file past until 6 o'clock, when the doors were shut. According to the Norwich and Bury Post, over 5,000 people queued to see the body. The following day, the dissection and post-mortem were carried out in front of an audience of students from Cambridge University and physicians. The skeleton was reassembled, exhibited, and used as a teaching aid at the West Suffolk Hospital. In 2004, the bones were removed and cremated. The story provoked numerous newspaper articles, ballads, songs and plays about the murder, and remained popular throughout the next century, and continue to be performed today. The Red Barn itself is nowhere to be found, and is said to have burned down in an arson attack in 1842.